Kraft, former U.S. Permanent Representative to the United Nations. Ambassador Kraft had some cordial interactions with Taiwan during her tenure in the United Nations. I believe our relationship is based on the shared values of democracy and freedom. One of the founding fathers and the second president of the United States, John Adams, once said, I quote, "Liberty once lost forever," end quote. People who espouse this belief stand together and support each other. Ambassador Kraft was the first U.S. top diplomat to the United Nations to meet Mr. James K.J. Lee, Taiwanese representative based in New York, and she is also the first U.S. ambassador to bring the Formosan black bear stuffed toy to the United Nations Assembly Hall. Formosa black bear is indigenous to Taiwan, and it represents Taiwan's actions. And Ambassador Kraft's action symbolizes her firm support to back Taiwan's bid to meaningful participation in the United Nations and its specialized agencies. Ambassador Kraft is the first sitting U.S. ambassador to the United Nations who had planned to visit Taiwan, but unfortunately, the visit was called off at the last minute. However, she had the virtual meeting with the President Tsai as an alternative way to show her support for Taiwan. We welcome Ambassador Kraft to visit Taiwan anytime soon in the near future with open arms. Ambassador Kraft set up and consulting firm Kelly G. Knight LLC in 2004. And she is not only an outstanding female entrepreneur, but also a philanthropist, as she has been devoted herself in a wide range of charitable activities. In 2015, Ambassador Kraft and Mr. Kraft co-founded the Kraft Academy for Excellence in Science and Mathematics in Kentucky, Morehead State University, a special program for academically exceptional students. In her career as a political figure, Ambassador Kraft served as an alternate delegate to the United Nations in 2007, where her focus included U.S. engagement in Africa. 10 years later, she became the first female U.S. ambassador to Canada and brought charm, grace, and listening skills to the ambassadorship. She also accomplished the signing of new trade agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Ambassador Kraft is a staunch supporter of Taiwan. She stands against China's efforts to unjustly exclude and isolate Taiwan on the global stage, and she appeals to the world the importance to include Taiwan in the international community. She recognizes Taiwan's successes are a reflection of democratic consolidation and a commitment to universal rights and values. She often tweets messages about Taiwan, even after stepping down, such as congratulating President Tsai for being awarded the 2020 John McCain Prize of Leadership in Public Service. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ambassador Kraft for her friendship and support for Taiwan. United States Congressman John Lewis said, I quote, "Democracy is not a state, it is an act," unquote. Taiwan will continue to safeguard democracy, and I'm certain Ambassador Kraft will stand with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Taiwan's friend, Ambassador Kelly Craft. And after the pre-recorded speech, Ambassador Craft will join us online for the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Tsai, for inviting me to speak at this forum today. And thank you, Taiwan, for allowing me this moment. Because at this moment, there's no place I'd rather be than right here. I stand before you in a formal role, giving a speech, but for me, this is much more than a professional outing. For me, Taiwan is a personal relationship, a relationship that is based on friendships, for sure, but also on the principles we hold so very dear, our shared commitment to democracy, to freedom, to allies, and to the values that I, as an American, feel are part of my genetic makeup. In short, the reason I stand with Taiwan is connected to the very things that make me an American. Without pretenses, and with enormous respect for all my colleagues in the diplomatic corps, I have been lucky enough to have had a unique relationship with Taiwan. Among all the difficult things that come with the position of the United States ambassador to the United Nations, confronting enemies of freedom every single day, dealing with an intrinsically corrupt system, comes some truly special privileges. And one of those privileges during the Trump administration was raising the profile of our relationship with TAIPEI at the United Nations, working hard to try to stop the systemic UN discrimination against democratic Taiwan. I want to talk about our relationship with Taiwan in depth. But before I do, we should spend a little bit of time on the events of last week in Afghanistan. As an American, I can't stand silent about the message we sent to those who need us the most. Afghanistan might feel a world away from TAIPEI, and maybe even a world away from us in the United States. But what has happened there has implications for us and for all of our friends, including our friends at the heart of democratic China. The Afghan people feel betrayed by us, and I know why. They trusted us to support them in their path towards democracy, in their quest for freedom, in their fight against terrorism. And we have let them down. But even if we step out of the Afghanistan narrative and look at this from an Asia perspective, we should be worried. The Chinese Communist Party has exploited the deaths of U.S. servicemen and women and Afghan citizens to cast doubt on our commitment to you. Like most of the people here today, I saw the disgraceful Communist Party mouthpiece, the Global Times editorial that cast doubt on our commitment to Taiwan because of Afghanistan. You deserve to hear it in full. Let me quote, "Some people on the island of Taiwan hype that the island is different from Afghanistan and that the U.S. wouldn't leave them alone. Indeed, the island is different from Afghanistan, but the difference is the deeper hopelessness of a U.S. victory if it gets itself involved in a cross-straits war. Such a war would mean unthinkable costs for the U.S., in front of which the so-called special importance of Taiwan is nothing but wishful thinking of the DPP authorities and secessionist forces on the island." End of quote. Shame on them. Shame on them for using the lives of brave men and women as propaganda. I am here to assure you that they are wrong. I am here to assure you of my belief in the firm U.S. commitment to Taiwan's defense. I was proud to support our commitment to TAIPEI during the Trump administration. And as an American, I am proud to see the Biden administration continuing that policy. I officially left my post at the United Nations in January. But even though my title has now changed, I haven't given up on my fight for Taiwan's inclusion in the United Nations and other international organizations. This October marks the 50th anniversary of the UN General Assembly Resolution 2758, a resolution that has no legal standing, used to facilitate discrimination against any and all Taiwanese involvement in the UN system. As you know, I object to both the supposed legalities behind the resolution as well as its interpretation by the United Nations. But I also object to the discrimination it represents. Discrimination against good sense, against democratic governance, against global security, against global health. What world organization dedicated to peace and security worth its name would reject cooperation on health with an advanced, scientifically groundbreaking country during a pandemic? The World Health Organization, that's who. What world organization dedicated to peace and security worth its name would reject cooperation on aviation security? The United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization, that's who. I could go on, but I suspect that you and everyone who watched me bring the little Taiwanese Thai bear to the General Assembly podium in my bag know how I feel. Is a stuffed bear going to change the world? No. But the first step is to stand up and proudly declare our commitment. Policy will, I hope and pray, follow. We've already seen substantial changes. President George W. Bush initiated the Quad Partnership in 2007 during my first tenure at the United Nations. He brought together the United States, Japan, India, and Australia, all of us Asian democracies committed to help lead Asia in the direction of peace and security. President Trump held the first ministerial with the Quad in 2019 during my second tenure at the United Nations, and held the first ministerial meeting between the two countries. Our administration was a series of firsts with Taiwan. On December 2nd, 2016, then President-elect Trump was the first to speak with a Taiwanese president since 1979. Undersecretary Keith Kroc secured multiple cooperation agreements with Taiwan. Secretary Azar was the highest-ranking cabinet official to visit Taiwan since 1979. I was the first U.S. UN ambassador to meet with the Taiwanese representative in New York, Ambassador James Lee, now a good friend of mine. We had historic defense sales to Taiwan totaling close to $19 billion in 4 years, more than the previous administration sold in all of its 8 years. Secretary Mike Pompeo did not depart office before lifting restrictions on meetings between Taiwanese and American government officials. That's a revolution over the course of the last 4 years, and I applaud the Biden administration for continuing that policy and for including Ambassador Tsao as a guest for his inauguration, a first as well. I am also encouraged by the recent steps taken by the U.S. Congress, specifically Senator Menendez, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and Senator Inhofe, the ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Political polar opposites who came together to agree on a strategy to permit Taiwanese inclusion in the World Health Assembly. You may ask yourself in these hyper-partisan times how Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Senators Menendez and Inhofe can embrace similar policies on Taiwan. And the answer is simple. Sometimes something is so clearly right for our own interest, so right for our own principles, so darned obvious that even Democrats and Republicans can agree. The late General Douglas MacArthur said, quote, "I believe if you lose Formosa, you lose the key to our literal line of defense. From our standpoint, we practically lose the Pacific Ocean if we give up or lose Formosa," end of quote. Friends, some people care about the fate of Taiwan. Some people care about the fate of Afghanistan. Some care about the fight for democracy and freedom overseas. But some are more worried about the challenges at home. And after these COVID years, those aren't small challenges. But if you are unsure about whether the fate of small nations matters to you, remember, this is also about our security, the fate of our nation, your life, your business. Without Taiwan, we lose the Pacific. We are, after all, a Pacific nation and cannot afford to cede our fate to communist China. If Taiwan is lost, we lose too. This is a fight the Taiwanese people know well. As President Tsai said last year at the forum, quote, Taiwan bears the ultimate responsibility for her own defense, end of quote. The United States is committed to Taiwan's security, but there is no better guarantor of freedom than one's own people. You know, I often hear Taiwan analogized to Israel. Two tiny democracies fighting against overwhelming odds and succeeding in ways no one would have ever imagined. But there's another thing that Israel understands. America stands with her, but her first line of defense is her own people. The Israel Defense Forces are a tribute to Israeli persistence, innovation, strength, and confidence. Taiwan, too, needs a military that is strong, confident, a first line of defense against external threats. Now is not a time for complacency. Last year, giving this lecture, General H.R. McMaster quoted a famous Chinese philosopher, Mengzi, often called the second sage, after Confucius. I'm going to do him one better and quote the first sage. To see the right and not to do it is cowardice. Together with other supporters of Taiwan, I know what is right. America must stand with our friends, our allies, the forces of freedom. Not to do so is indeed cowardice. Thank you.
Ambassador Kraft, thank you very much for your powerful and very supportive speech. It is indeed encouraging and inspiring. A couple of hundred people are watching your speech, and I believe thousands are receiving your message. The CCP's intent to compare Taiwan to Afghanistan after the recent incident is not only misleading, but also malicious. President Tsai responded that Taiwan should take action on our own and not just rely on others to protect the country. Our only option is to make ourselves stronger, more united, and more determined to defend ourselves. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the United States government for the rock-solid support and the sacrosanct commitment as made by the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. As a reliable ally, Taiwan will continue to enhance its self-defense capabilities like Israel and to make contributions as a force for good. Now, I would like to ask Ambassador Kraft some questions, if you like. We have urged the United Nations to rectify its systematic discrimination against Taiwan for a long time, and we will continue campaigning for our inclusion in the United Nations and its specialized agencies. As a seasoned diplomat formerly dealing with the United Nations affairs, Ambassador Kraft, can you suggest how Taiwan participate in the United Nations and its affiliated bodies in a more meaningful and resilient way?
Thank you so much, Mr. Deputy Minister, and thank you everyone for having me. And as you know, I have a very special bond with Taiwan. And while Taiwan may feel as if it is on the peripheral, I am here this evening, this morning for you, to tell you that you are at the center. So the ways that I see from being inside the UN, as everyone knows, 4 out of 15 of the UN agencies is led by the Chinese, and that's very troubling. Especially two of the agencies that I discussed in my speech, being the Aviation Society and also the World Health Organization. You know, while Taiwan was very busy helping the rest of the world to understand how this virus was spread from person to person, China instead was using the WHO as a mouthpiece in order to spread their malicious lies, in order to cover up for actually what was happening. And when I think about this, I think about how important global health is now going to be moving forward. And there is a definite place for Taiwan to continue their scientific research, to continue speaking as a mouthpiece, an honest, transparent mouthpiece, not necessarily through the WHO or the WHA, as we know that China has been blocking, but to be able to speak through other non-UN organizations. The world knows that thanks to Taiwan, we now understand the severity of the spread of this virus and how important that is. So therefore, this is something that is on the minds of everyone in the world. And Taiwan needs to utilize that moment and continue their research and their good governance and their transparency, because this is not the last pandemic that this world will see. And if you notice with the United Nations Human Rights Council, let me just say, we left the Human Rights Council because why would the United States want to be part of a council whose very members, including China and Russia, are the ones who are committing the atrocities? If you look at China with the Uyghurs, you look at Venezuela, you look at Maduro and the way he treats his people, why would we want to be part of an organization that is deeply flawed? And it just seems to me, 75 years ago, this past year, the UN was founded, and we were founded upon a charter that upholds international security and peace throughout the world. But it seems to me that the UN is more focused today on the weather instead of the Uyghurs. And I think this is where Taiwan and where the US and other like-minded countries could come in and really talk about the importance of what Taiwan has added to the health and security, the public health and security of everyone in the world. Because Taiwan knows no boundaries with its knowledge. And you can't say that about China.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question I would like to ask is the resurgence of the Quad is a striking example that a trans-Pacific alliance of like-minded democracies gradually taking shape. And what is your assessment of the Quad's prospect or limitation? Is there a possibility for its engagement? And how can Taiwan participate in the Quad Plus activities in the future?
You know, I was very proud to represent two presidents, one of which, George W. Bush, who initiated the Quad in 2007, and then you fast forward to representing the Trump administration, where President Trump saw the resurgence of the Quad in 2019. And why the importance of the Quad in 2019? The common concern with the countries in the Quad, China. If you look at these countries and their concern about the military buildup of China and their maligned behavior in the area, you look at Australia, who are now at an all-time low relationship with China. If you look at Japan, whom has every reason to be very concerned with the military buildup and with the global supply chain. I mean, if you look at this country, if you look at Japan and you think about where Taiwan is situated, where you have the East China Sea, the South China Sea, South Asia, the Taiwan Strait, it is imperative that Taiwan and China work very closely together. It's also important that we kind of sit back and we take a look and be the gods of patience for a moment to see how this plays out with India especially now with the U.S. leaving Afghanistan and with China having their relationship with the Taliban, their relationship with Pakistan. I think we're going to see India, who understands the importance of having that global supply chain, having that supply chain with then the Quad plus one being Taiwan. I mean, we have to hope that Taiwan will participate with Japan in naval exercises. That's vitally important. And that, you know, the southbound policy by Taiwan has been excellent. So we need to really focus on having these relationships, whether it is bilateral relationships with members of the Quad or trilaterals. We have to strengthen what we already are working on, and that is how do we change the trajectory from being dependent upon China? Well, there's no better country, no better island that understands that best than Taiwan, than your President Tsai. The fact that she stands for democracy, for good governance, for sound knowledge, this is what is an added benefit to the Quad, because we have not had that up close and personal relationship with China like you have. You understand the importance of us changing the trajectory of the global supply chain, making certain that we strengthen our military exercises from within, making certain that we encourage Japan to be outspoken with Taiwan, about Taiwan and the other countries, making certain that we encourage Taiwan to keep the engagement with the clean network. That is vitally important, because that's really what got underneath China. They got under their skin with Australia, with India, with Japan. And I can tell you that the U.S., the Trump administration and the Biden administration both are going to make certain that at every moment possible that we highlight the goodness, the intelligence, the added value that Taiwan has in the area. Because if we lose Taiwan, and I cannot reiterate this enough, if we lose Taiwan, the U.S. loses Taiwan, the world loses an opportunity to have safety and security in the Pacific. And if I can just go back for a moment on the first question, you know, I want to highlight something that Germany and the UK worked on along with the US, but I have to give all the credit to Germany and the UK, because the third committee in the General Assembly, we were able to have 39 member states sign on in agreement with us on the fact that China and their human rights abuses. And these countries were having infrastructure projects removed from China because China felt it such a threat that they signed on with the third committee. So this is something that Taiwan needs to take as a positive, that these member states were going without, and we're going without their infrastructure. And we know, Taiwan knows, the US knows, that that is nothing but predatory actions. They're nothing but scavengers, and they only take advantage of these states. Well, 39 of them recognize that. 39 of them recognize the human rights abuses. 39 of them recognize that the US stands firm with democracy. And Taiwan is one of those shining stars of good governance and democracy by your President Tsai. So thank you for letting me go back to discuss that one more time.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ambassador. The third question, if I may, I do agree that is cowardice to see what is right and not to do it. Benjamin Franklin said, I quote, "They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety," unquote. What Taiwan safeguards is more than our homeland security, but our shared commitment and values of democracy, freedom, and human rights. How can Taiwan enhance cooperation with democratic partners in safeguarding our beliefs and counter authoritarianism?
You know, that's an excellent question. And you know, I can quote Reagan in saying that freedom is one generation from extinction. And I think you understand this. And I think your country understands this. President Tsai has stressed to this generation that were born Taiwanese, that know nothing other than the freedom that has been promoted and that has been grounded by you and your leadership and your government. And I think the way that we can enhance further, because as you know, the United States stands very firm with Taiwan, and especially with our Taiwan Relations Act of 1979. We had 19 billion in sales, military sales, defense sales during the Trump administration. And I am certain that the Biden administration will continue to make certain that your military is built up. And we have to remember that the enhanced economic prosperity dialogue, including all of the clean network, all of our 5G, we have to work very close together on that, because we know that all of the countries that are engaged have one common fear, and that is China. So we have to work together, and that is where Taiwan, being the most brilliant semiconductor country, this is where we can focus on the fact that Taiwan has something that not only everyone in the world needs, and we all know this because of COVID and having to work from our home office, but we need it in a very safe and secure environment, because each of us would be touched by our national security if China were to have any part of making a semiconductor. So this is why we have to form partnerships with Taiwan. We have, through our USMCA in negotiating, you know the importance of EVs in the United States in the next couple years. We have to really focus on our semiconductor relationship with Taiwan and bringing the company, TSMC, to the United States. I mean, there are so many opportunities that, you know, with Taiwan, especially with their removal of the barriers of the agriculture products. I mean, I'm from my home state of Kentucky, and I know the importance that Taiwan has with Kentucky in our trade relationship. And I am very proud to be able to further enhance that relationship in our agricultural farm business community. And, you know, as you mentioned earlier, my husband and I founded the Craft Academy. And I am so particularly interested in, you have the best and the brightest students. And the reason I know this is because we have sent one of our Craft Academy students on a Fulbright scholarship to Taiwan. And she chose Taiwan because she felt as if your university had the best and the brightest of professors and students that she could work alongside. So I think if we focus on a real engagement in our educational opportunities, not only to trade the best and the brightest, but to also, from the United States standpoint and from the Craft Academy, to make sure that our students understand how firm my generation, their generation, is going to be standing with Taiwan. And that is why they need to know the history. They need to meet the youth of Taiwan and understand they are Taiwanese and that they stand firm with President Tsai.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Craft. You mentioned just now the new southbound policy of Taiwan. Actually, we have implemented the new southbound policy quite a number of years. The new southbound policy covers 18 countries in the areas. And we focus on the talent, students, and the trade, and the share values, and the supply chain, that kind of things. For the past couple of years, I think new southbound policy is doing a great job. But I would like to connect the new southbound policy with the Quad and with the United States and the Indo-Pacific strategy or vision, whatever you want to call it. So, do you have any suggestion what Taiwan can do to cooperate in a wide range of areas? Is there any specific areas that two countries, Taiwan and United States, and maybe the new southbound countries, the 18 countries, can enhance cooperations for the years to come?
Yes, and you know, that is an excellent point and an excellent question. And I think that is something that we need to think about. We need to think about our Abraham Accords with Israel, engaging Taiwan with Israel. We need to think about the fact that if you look at the EU and how they have taken a, oh, excuse me, sorry, this just fell out. They have taken a step back from, they've taken a step back from their trade with China. Why is this? Because they too see the behavior of China. They too see their predatory actions. And you know what, most importantly, they see their human rights abuses. And this is an opportunity for Taiwan to engage in conversation with the EU member states. And I, although am not in the same position, the title means nothing. I will continue to speak with the different EU member states. I mean, there are 15 countries that recognize Taiwan. We need to recognize them. I will say to you that the first area that I visited as the U.S. UN ambassador were the island countries. And they told me the importance of them being recognized, especially with Palau. I had such a nice relationship that I continued through 2007 to 2019. And it's really important that not only that they recognize you, but that other countries that you have trade relations with, and including ourselves, that we recognize those 15 countries because they deserve to be so, because I know the sacrifice that they make in being a partner with Taiwan. So we need to encourage other countries, which is something that I will do, to be able to recognize countries that take that step. We need to recognize Germany, because Germany is very good with the semiconductors. You know, there are so many opportunities with the EU. There are so many opportunities with Israel, with the Middle East countries. I mean, Taiwan has the best and the brightest that any country that I know has to offer. And I know I compare them with Israel, but they are. They are the smartest, most innovative, freedom-seeking, freedom-loving country, and we need to build upon that. And I would love nothing more than to see Taiwan have really good ties with Israel and to be able to join part of this Abraham Accord and then open up other ties throughout the Middle East. But I can say that with all of my conversations with the different EU countries as being part of that at the UN, Taiwan was always held in the utmost respect. Because, you know, they also understand the importance. You know, not to do the right thing is cowardice. And I think that is a universal language, because doing the right thing is the only way. And that is why Taiwan has been successful. And that is why the UN, if you see how that is today, have taken a step back from their original 75 years. That is why they no longer really promote what is the right thing to do. And that is promoting human rights. That is promoting countries that are added value to the world, which is what Taiwan has done with COVID. You have saved millions of lives throughout the world. And I am forever indebted, and I can tell you that you are not the peripheral. You have been in the center fighting this. And this is an area that we really need to shine the light on Taiwan.
Well, thank you very, very much, Ambassador Croft. It's such delightful conversation with you. And like I said in the beginning, you are always welcome to Taiwan. I think we'll open up our arms to welcome you to visit Taiwan. And along with me, I think there are so many Taiwanese and viewers. I think they are equally happy to see you here. So once again.
So may I tell you that because it was 9:45 p.m. in Kentucky. So this is what I have had for my snacks this evening, if you can see. So compliments of your wonderful ambassador in Washington, Sal, and also my sweet bear travels with me. There we go, absolutely.
There you go.
Travels with me everywhere I go. So
okay.
She has been with Abraham Lincoln just recently in LaRue County, which is where Abraham Lincoln's birthplace, and I take her, and she is a proud addition to our family. And she's going to also be meeting the new Afghan refugees that will be moving into Kentucky. So I'm excited for the young children to meet her.
Wonderful. That's a vision 1. This is vision 2. I can assure you,
Absolutely.
When you come to Taiwan, you will be bombarded with all these black bears. Once again, thank you very much and good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's a very personal moment for me, and thank you for allowing me just a sneak peek and to stand in your light this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Good night. Good night.
Okay, wow, that was a lovely picture. We see that. Many thanks to Ambassador Kelly Craig. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Kaigalan Forum 2021 Asia-Pacific Security Dialogue, hosted by the Prospect Foundation and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I want to first welcome all of you home and abroad to join this very special edition of Kaigalan Forum 2021, which offers 4 panels of security topics, from the challenges to liberal order in the Indo-Pacific, the Quad, countering gray zone coercion in the East and South China Sea, and also building trusted supply chains. There are a total of 1 keynote speech and 4 panel discussions, inviting top academics, officials, and experts across the globe to share their insights and viewpoints. Lineup of speakers from the countries include the US, France, Australia, India, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Vietnam, and the Philippines. It's our great honor to have all these security experts to join us. We hope to work together to promote Asian countries' security and also eventually enhance the well-being of mankind. And today's forum is considered as one of the action plans. On the other hand, if you have any questions during the forum, please feel free to leave your messages at the WebEx system. The experts will be glad to respond. In the beginning, let us welcome Chairman of the Prospect Foundation, Chen Tangshan, to deliver his opening statement.
Her Excellency President Tsai, Honorable Foreign Minister Wu, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kaigalan Forum 2021 Asia-Pacific Security Dialogue. On behalf of the Prospect Foundation, I thank you all for joining us today for this significant event. Amid the disruptive effects of China's sharp power activities, aggressive military behavior in the East and South China Sea, and a persisting COVID-19 pandemic, we come together here today to discuss the challenges and the prospects for the Indo-Pacific in 2021 and beyond. The list of challenges we face today is a formidable one. In the Taiwan Strait, a more assertive and impatient Beijing has embarked on a course of action to challenge the status quo using military, economic, and diplomatic tools that threaten the stability. Beyond Taiwan, China's gray zone operations, cognitive warfare, and economic coercion have turned the Indo-Pacific region a geopolitical battlefield and zone of struggle between authoritarianism and democracy. This is a direct and persistent challenge to the liberal international order upheld by the United States and its democratic allies, including Taiwan, of course. That for decades has benefited this region. That is the reason why this year's panels focus particularly on strategic and maritime challenges. Against this shifting strategic landscape, countries in the Indo-Pacific are confronted not only to security but also profound development challenges. Success calls for like-minded democracies to work together on a wide range of fronts, including building up sufficient deterrence and response capabilities against military threats and gray zone coercion, deepening defense cooperation across all domains, and forging a trustworthy and resilient global supply chain, especially in the post-COVID-19 era. So it is very important that we bring intelligent minds together to shed light on those complicated geostrategic shifts and challenges. This includes the potential repercussions of a Taiwan Strait contingency on the Indo-Pacific liberal order, cooperation among Quad and Quad Plus members on maritime affairs in the region, responses to gray zone coercion in the East and South China Sea, as well as assessing the post-COVID-19 economic outbreak. All those point to areas where further cooperation is not only possible, but necessary. I have no doubt that there is still a lot we can do and must do together to secure a more peaceful, prosperous, and equal environment for the region and the world. So it is truly our great privilege to have all these highly esteemed speakers and participants with us here physically or virtually assembled today here. Your participation guarantees the success of this event, and I'm looking forward to your wisdom and input during this discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to thank you for joining 2021 Category Forum and wish today's conference every success. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the opening statement, Chairman Chen. And at this special moment, it's our great privilege and distinct honor to have Her Excellency, Madam President Tsai Ing-wen, to address the opening ceremony. Now, please join me in welcoming Her Excellency, Madam President Tsai Ing-wen.
Dr. Mark Tang San-Chen, Chairman of the Prospect Foundation, Ms. Kelly Craft, United States former Ambassador to the United Nations, Minister Joseph Wu of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Lai Yi-zhong, President of the Prospect Foundation, distinguished guests and participants joining us online from around the world, good morning. First, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all for participating in this year's Katagalan Forum. And thank you very much, Ambassador Craft, for staying up late to be with us live. This year, we are meeting virtually once again as countries around the world work continuously to prevent the spread of Delta variant of the coronavirus. And even though our effort to combat the pandemic remains, there are still issues important to the region and the world that required our attention and joint efforts to resolve. Issues such as how to deal with the challenges to the Indo-Pacific's liberal order, how to respond to gray zone coercion in the East and South China Seas, and the reconfiguration of globalization and building trusted supply chains. This year's Katagalan Forum will facilitate discussions on those essential issues as we move towards a post-pandemic future. The Indo-Pacific is the world's fastest growing region. It offers myriads of opportunities in areas like trade, research, manufacturing, and education. The stability of this region offers reassurance to the development of global economy and international security. And it has a pivotal role to play in defining the course of the 21st century. The Indo-Pacific's emergence is also accompanied by newly developed tensions and systemic contradictions. The rise of a more assertive authoritarianism is the drive of such friction and poses the most serious challenge. Emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic, authoritarian regimes are now more convinced that their alternative model of governance is better adapted than the liberal democratic order. Despite the worrisome trend, Taiwan continues to strive to be part of the solution for an international community that is still trying to find its post-pandemic footing, while tackling hurdles such as climate change, emerging diseases, non-proliferation, terrorism, and a secure supply chain. With the revival of Quad and the EU's proposed Euro-Asia connectivity strategy, which advocates for a sustainable, comprehensive, and rule-based approach to connectivity, Taiwan is well positioned to serve as an indispensable partner on democratic renewal and in sectors such as biotechnology, renewable energy, and the semiconductor industry. Not only that, Taiwan is committed to working with regional actors to ensure regional stability. We are willing to shoulder our share of burden, and we would not take our security partners' cavalry for granted. And our effort doesn't end here. Taiwan is also fully committed to collaborate with its neighbors to prevent armed conflicts in the Taiwan Strait, the East and South China Seas. While we don't seek military confrontation and hopes for peaceful, stable, and beneficial existence with our neighbors, we'll always defend our democracy and way of life. Taiwan's high-tech sector, especially its leading edge in the semiconductor sector, will be a crucial component to create a secure global supply chain that protects critical technologies from exploitation. Besides this, Taiwan has an innovative role to play in high-precision manufacturing, artificial intelligence, 5G applications, renewable energy, biotech, and many other sectors, which can help create more diverse and resilient global supply chains that can withstand interruptions. Moreover, Taiwan's soft power also lies in its experience and capabilities in education, human resource development, public health, medicine, and natural disaster prevention. Our medical facilities are sharing their experience in medical technology and management with countries in the region to improve public health and medical care. At this critical juncture, there are many new opportunities for Taiwan to play a constructive role. Taiwan can also be a crucial force in nurturing a network for the peaceful development and prosperity of our region. Despite the trials and tribulations posed by the pandemic, the last 2 years were also exemplified by warmth, resilience, strength, friendship, and partnership. As Taiwan donated material and provided assistance to the world at the onset of the pandemic, the world also came to Taiwan's aid with life-saving vaccines. I want to take this opportunity to reiterate my deep appreciation to our like-minded friends, such as the United States, Japan, Lithuania, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia, for coming to our aid during such a critical time. The world has changed dramatically due to the outbreak, and the way we live our lives might be forever altered. While extraordinary challenges remain, I see democracies working to safeguard shared values and their institutions and to serve the interests of the international community. And our belief in democracy and freedom has never been stronger. Taiwan's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and its assistance to and collaboration with countries around the world have demonstrated the crucial role that Taiwan can play and why Taiwan matters. Although we are faced with an arduous journey ahead, we see this is presenting Taiwan with opportunities we have never seen before. Time and again, we all were confronted by great challenges, but we have always been able to triumph by working together and believing in our shared values of freedom and democracy. To conclude, I want to wish you all a successful dialogue. Thank you, Chairman Chan, for the invitation to speak. And lastly, I want to extend an invitation to Ambassador Kraft and all the participants to come to Taiwan when the pandemic recedes, so that you can witness the beauty of Taiwan in person. Thank you very much.